1990 CRX SI has an Integra Type R engine in there, including transmission. We installed this last year and took it to the tail of the dragon. Well, the tail of the dragon is coming up and this engine really needs to be refreshed. It's a tired motor. It's sat for 10 years in the Burt hatch. October 7th and 8th, we're going to be at the tail of the dragon. We're going to be at the Classic Hondas on the Dragon meet. They are having a meet. I'll put all the information in the video. So the Saturday meet is at the school. The Sunday meet is at the base of the dam. If you are even close, even within a day's drive, you got to check this thing out. Some of the best roads you'll ever see, some of the best Honda guys you'll ever meet. And of course, you're sharing the passion of the Honda, especially classic Hondas. I'm going to be obviously taking the CRX. They're celebrating the EF platform this year, so we are actually going to make a shirt. Very, very stock, very OEM-ish. We went with the OEM Integra Type R header, and over here you can see this is the CRX airbox, the JDM airbox. And I actually found the K&N filter, which was actually a little bit of, I think came from Australia. They used to offer this, and now it's hard to get, but obviously it has the lid. It fits. Everything looks very, very stock. We didn't go for anything too crazy and outlandish. We're not going for big power. I think this car only made about 180 to the wheels. So we're going to take the top end off, take this. I'll do a little a few videos along the way. Take this off, and then we'll see what the pistons look like, see how it has been running. We're going to get the head completely gone through, new rings, and obviously seals that are related. Hopefully there's nothing else that we find in there. Now this does have a conventional narrowband O2 sensor. I think we're going to change it to a wideband because it will run better. It'll stay finer tuned. Back in the day, I did put a spoon thermostat in here, which we used to all think was a good idea. Well, up in the mountains, this car had a hard time getting warm. Once you got rolling, it wouldn't run the heat, and the car would run cool, to a point where I actually stuck cardboard down here when it was in the 30s up in the mountains because I couldn't get the car warm and I couldn't get warm. So we're going to take those out. So a lot of the pictures I'm showing you are on the build video, but we did this exhaust that didn't really fit very well, but we made it bolt up to the factory CRX cat, and then the cat bolts up to this right here, the US Integra Type R exhaust manifold. Not that people have seen these before. I remember seeing these when they came when the car's brand new. But that's what it looks like on the bottom. It's got that almost like a jacket over the two pipes for some reason. Little tiny outlet, but good for 195 horsepower from the factory. If your customer changes their oil regularly or not, this nice aluminum look, if they don't change oil, goods kind of gets like a gold. Also the factory LNAs, if I could get one to come out here, the oil kind of sticks it in right here. They still feel beautiful, they don't stick. If you don't change oil regular, these stick. Well, the newer version is just like a spring with a little tip on the end so that the oil will circulate better. This, obviously the oil is tough to get in and out there. It's like a tube within a tube and then a spring. But just wanted to show you this because I'm a bit of an oil change fanatic. All right, cylinder head is off. Everything looks pretty good. Don't really see any issues. We're gonna go through this, obviously, just make sure the guides are in good shape, put new valve stem seals on there because it does smoke a little bit on diesel. And of course, we'll pull the pistons out and look at the bores, measure the bores, and we shall give it a good cleanup, a good hone, set the rings, put it back together. Make sure there's nothing crazy coming out of there. We just did a B-Series motor that had different coolant in it. I'll put a picture on the screen here. And the coolant had turned to like a jelly. So it's always something you don't want to see. It means two different coolants have mixed and reacted with each other. So let's pull the rest of the parts off, take the plugs out. We're going to take these two sensors off and the water hose right here. Does it say what it is? It said the temperature?
No, that's what I was looking for.
It used to say like Celsius over here somewhere, didn't it? Like 68 or something.
Yeah, this one didn't have anything on it.
Is it an OEM one at least? Kind of looks like it 'cause it's got the double spring.
Yeah, it kind of looks OEM.
It looks like the guides are wet. See that one there? That one there. This on the left might be where it's dribbled down. That one on the right. That one there too. So a long time ago, Burt bought this motor brand new and brought it to us. And I remember now, we put JDM Type R pistons in it, which are the P7300s right there, but it was a brand new block. We swapped the pistons and rings, put it in, and I bet this motor hasn't got 10,000 miles on it. So we're gonna clean all this out and look at it, but we might be okay leaving these bores alone because they look perfect. Look at that, some new old stock. This is the factory Honda thermostat. So we're gonna chuck that bad boy in there. Don't know why people call them bad boy. They're not bad. They're good. Because this is obviously a massive radiator. We don't need the thing to be running any colder than say 185, 190. That's where it goes. So we'll put an OEM one in there and we'll save that. This just is a thermo switch. If you don't know the old school Hondas, this thermo switch used to just kick a signal to the relay that would kick the fan on and the turn on early. So again, it kind of goes with the thermostat. For some reason, we used to have problems with heat back then. I don't know why. We don't seem to have them now.
I don't think we had the data we had back then, so it was running the same, you just didn't know.
Yeah, if you saw 200, you freak out and say, well, we needed to run 150. There it is down there.
Active heat management.
Active heat management from a year ago at the Dragon. So I ordered this rack for this car last year. So this car has, I believe it's got the Quaife gear in it. It was something that Steve put in it for more for autocross. But just so we can document it, if we bring it all the way to full left lock right here. So that is 1.5, 2, it's like 2.25 lock to lock. So it makes the steering ratio quicker, but with a little bit wider, stickier tires when you're going slow, it makes the steering stiffer. It feels like there is no power steering. There's no power steering on these cars. None of the CRXs in the US had power steering, so that emphasizes the heavy steering. So this is a new rack. Like I say, I ordered after the trip to the Dragon because the trip was not fun with that heavy steering. So we are going to first off use this packing, recycle it. We're going to put that in the store. And here is our brand new rack for our CRX. The shifter rod's off right here, so we can take the rack off, but 2 bolts here, 2 bolts here, and then these off right here. We'll just back these off. We're going to use it as kind of like an idea of getting the alignment fairly close so we can drive it down the road and then take it to the alignment shop. But let's go ahead and burn this off. Tie rod that came off is a little loose. It's not terrible, but we're going through the extent of putting in a rack, so we may as well replace those. So should have 2 of these coming here in about the next 20 minutes.
1, 2, 3, 16, 17 and a half.
Wow, it's exact.
Yep.
17.5 turns on each one brought them off. A little rattly. It's loose, but it don't make noise. Oh, it does.
Yeah, but you're not going to do that in the car.
Oh, I do. Go through the Dragon, that's all I do.
Yeah.
What is it, 914 turns over 1.5 miles? Something like that. Everything else looks good. We did big brakes all around, suspension. There's a phone in the dinosaur. Everything else is looking good. These bushings Steve did. These Steve did. The lower control arms don't look the best. I'm still debating whether to change those. That bushing is a little collapsed. This one is probably the same, but try not to get carried away. You know, you can get carried away pretty easy, especially me. Connection right here. I'm thinking if I pull both sides off right here. There it goes. Yeah, I got it free. I took both bolts off and lifted it up. There we go. Hands covering the screen. There we go. It should come off from the bottom now. So this Crossmember, I don't even remember who we bought it from, but would use the factory rubber, but it sticks down. It's ugly. It's designed so you could put like a EG radiator in it. You see how much lower it is from the radiator, but it hangs down, and obviously I've hit it a couple of times because it hangs down a lot. I mean, look at that. It's about as ugly as they come. So we're going to take this time to cut this off. These are independent right here. Somebody knows what this bar is. I remember it was hard finding it. Let me know what you think it is.
It's probably
innovative.
Hybrid or innovative.
One of those. So these are independent. We're going to keep these. We're going to cut this bar maybe up around here and then tie these together. So this was the mount we basically made those brackets come up here, and we made a DA mount fit on there, bolted it to the transmission. This is a hydro transmission, so it wouldn't have a front mount there. And then basically made these so we could bolt it. I didn't want to get into cutting this at the time. We're on a bit of a time crunch then, so we just basically made these. We're going to take those off, cut this bar out, join a bar from these across here, and then remake those brackets. The mounting points for the torsion bars are in the right spot. We didn't move those. We'll just cut that extra bar out and then basically join those together with a new bar. Use some heavy gauge inch by inch bar. And then of course added the tabs and reused our front mount. The front mount is an OEM DA front mount. That way it's designed to work in that position. Not only does it look better, it's got us quite a bit more ground clearance. It took 3 inches off the ground clearance in the front, which obviously the engine sticks down out the car, but you just got to be careful with that when driving. So this rack was in, we just took it out because it creaks. It's like a slight groaning sound. So we're going to take it apart. We're kind of assuming it might be low on grease. We just pulled the little tension piece out here. It has a plastic bushing in there and a spring, and it keeps tension on the rack to stop it moving, takes some of the slop out of it. But we're kind of assuming it might be low on grease or barely greased. Looking at this over here, it doesn't look like it's got a whole lot on it. Half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, almost 3.5. So now we've got almost 3.5 lock to lock. So obviously it's not going to be as quick ratio feeling, but the steering is going to be lighter. Going through the Dragon, the steering was very heavy. I was having to fight this. Obviously, if you've gone through the Dragon, you know how much you're turning the wheel. One more thing I ordered was the lower control arms. The bushings look a little tired, and I did find a pair of brand new ones, waiting for them to come in. Once they're in, we'll install them, put the engine together, start it, make sure everything's happy, then I can get it realigned. If you didn't watch any of these CRX series, just to give you a quick recap, this used to belong to a good friend of mine, Steve McCluskey, which I used to go to Nopi with right from the late 90s. And this car has spent a lot of time up there, North Georgia, going to the drag and those kind of things. So I kind of feel that it deserves to go back there, which is why I'm taking this to the Dragon meet. And of course, it's all original paint. All we did was kind of continue the dream that Steve and I had for this car, which was to put a B-Series engine in there, which is basically what I did when I got it off him. I kind of felt that was something it needed to have done. So that's why we went to the extent of doing the full Type R swap, and of course upgraded the brakes. So the head is back, did a complete refresh, new seals, 3-angle valve job on all the valves, got everything seated nicely. Just a real minimum surface just to make sure it's 100% flat. I just kind of wiped it off. You see how nice that surface is right there. Really important for MLS head gaskets. If there's any imperfections in there, it will leak. Lost motion assemblies, what I usually do is flush fresh oil through there. I should have filmed it, but through here, put fresh oil in there until it comes out, make sure it's nice and clean, and then always check them. I want to tell you to push down here and make sure it's smooth. I already checked these. They're surprisingly good. They're not scratchy at all. As silly as this sounds, check and double check the head gasket, because it will often look like it will go both ways. All the B-Series ones have stenciled right here up. Honda Buck calls for 2 stages, 22 and 61 of course do it in the sequence hard to tell you. S2000 injectors, because they're a little bit higher flow than the factory ones. I think they're 310, but it gives you a little bit more fuel, and they're OEM injectors, so they have a nice spray pattern and no funny issues that you got to deal with. You just got to basically change the height right there. That's how we did it. Don't forget the VTEC pin and O-ring right there. There's the part number. Valve adjustment is done. Now time to put the intake manifold gasket on. We did put a new valve cover gasket kit on there. You never want to reuse those, because if you do, chances are you'll be doing it again. Told you about the control arms. That's the bushing right there. This is the original. As you see, it's flattened, or it's dropped to the outer side, and I'm guessing that one is the same. So those parts should be here tomorrow. Everything else is good. Those ball joints are good. Tie rod ends are obviously new, so that should tighten this up quite a bit. So we're pretty much ready to run. We're just putting coolant in it, and then put the battery on. We can start her up. We'll look everything over. We'll top this up here in a minute. You know, we have a bleeder bucket for that somewhere.
Yeah.
We used to sell those bleeder buckets. Let me put the bucket on, then we'll hit the key so it doesn't spill out all over the place. There's a bleeder bucket. We good? Nice and clear that is. You want to do the honors, George? Yeah. I hear the pump. Cycle it again. Do it again. Yeah, I'm good. So we've got to remember to change that pump. I want to put a factory pump in it.
Ready?
Yeah. There it goes. That doesn't sound good. It just sounded like it was missing there for a second. Might have took a while to get fuel all the way around. We just disconnected all the fuel. Started questioning myself. I'm like, okay, yes. I mean, you can't really mess these things up. Sounds good. It's not smoking, is it?
Not that I can see.
Nice back here. We'll let it warm up. We'll cycle it, see what the new thermostat does. I want to change the fuel pump because CRXs are kind of noisy. They don't have a lot of insulation, so they're kind of noisy here. I want to put the OEM pump in it. Change those control arms, then we're going to put the wideband and run it directly into the S300 so it runs quite a bit better. And then put on the dyno. I'm going to drive it back and forth to work for the next week before we make our 750-mile drive to our cabin. Thank you for the coffee, Esther. So not to put a scare on anybody, just to let you know we are out of coffee cards. If you see us under a bridge with a cardboard sign saying, we'll build your cars and do free YouTube videos for coffee, it's funny that heat is a luxury. Last year I froze to death in this car because it wouldn't warm up. Now it's taking forever. It's at 197. We're waiting for the fans to kick on, make sure they're happy. But when we put the heater on, we have heat now. Look how smooth that thing is running. So it's on the wideband right now, running it straight into the S300.
Here we go.
There it is, it's in 199. Let's just make sure they're shut off. 197 is plenty, especially running dual spawns. These are cranking. Listen how well that motor idles now. That's beautiful. So we have heat, we have air, we have a fresh motor, a new rack, new thermostat, new thermoswitch. Oh, I gotta do the fuel pump. I almost forgot, I gotta do that stupid fuel pump.
I'm trying to run gas out of it for you.
Yeah, make that fuel pump, make the gas tank lighter. Sounds pretty responsive. That's kicked up. Yep. What's the temperature now? Can you see it?
192.
Oh, okay. All right, well, as long as it'll stay warm in the mountains, we should be good. You guys with the Civic, EGs and EKs and DC2s are absolutely spoiled when it comes to doing a fuel pump. This is what us CRX guys have to deal with. I modified this when we had it apart the first time and put the newer style plug on there so it'll accept anything. This is the Walbro GSS 342. I didn't know what my plans were with this car, so this is a pump that's good for about 500 wheel horsepower. We're not going to be needing anywhere near that. And as I mentioned, CRXs don't have any noise insulation. There's the top of the tank and there is the inside of the car. So you hear everything. So listening to that fuel pump when it gets hot in a CRX is not necessary. So I'm going to take that out and put a factory S2000 pump. It's the same dimension. Now we've changed that plug, and it's got the newer sock on there. It just clips right in, super easy. Back together. Light is still burning bright. These lights are honestly probably one of the best things we have bought and used daily. So let's put it down. Let's make sure the fuel pump works. I'm gonna have to cycle the fuel pump a couple of times and make sure we get some fuel up to the rill, because obviously I drained everything out. Let's take a listen. Absolutely silent. You can't hear it at all. Nice. All right. Fingers crossed. All right. Definitely a good sign. So that fuel pump will support 300 horsepower without a problem. It's the S2000 pump. We have 310 injectors in here, which are S2000 fuel injectors. New control arms are here. I'll do a side-by-side comparison to show you how bad the other bushings are, but they're somewhat flattened. The steering wheel is only that much off, so I'm going to go ahead and straighten it and get it close. I'm going to drive it home tonight, and then I'm going to call my buddy and see if I can get an alignment at some point, because the alignment is off. Not terrible. I mean, that looks almost straight, and the other one has a little bit of toe in. Again, not terrible, but you see that one is actually towed in quite a bit. In fact, quite a lot. And this one is straight. So, not a big deal. Almost looks like it's towed out. It's like old times down here, rolling around the parking lot. Okay, see how close we are. The thing starts up so nice. The steering is so light. It's like power steering now. The other one was nice because it was a quick ratio, but it just felt like you had no power steering, even though it didn't have power steering. It was just heavy, you know what I mean? I couldn't do it one-handed like this. So I'm not trying to get the steering wheel perfect, just trying to get it kind of close. It's not bad at all. Not bad. It's enough that I can get it aligned now. So this thing dries perfect. Oh, there's Millman. He's going to be coming to us next. It's good. We've got 26 packages today. So I'm going to drive this home, make sure everything is happy, make sure there's no issues, go over the drivability, then we'll put it on the dyno, make sure it's good to go before I go ahead and make that 700-mile trip. Which, believe it or not, this is actually easier to drive 700 miles than the S2000, because there's a lot more room in it. Very careful around the middleman, don't want to scare him. Let's go ahead and pop VTEC down here, make sure it still works. Yep. So I'm going to do a follow-up once we get it on the dyno. I want to do more drivability. I drove it home last night, drove it back today. It drives really good. I got to get it aligned. Did a little bit of tweaking on the tune. Tune is pretty much on the money. It's now running on the wideband. It just gives a lot better feedback, but the drivability is good. We'll see what it makes power-wise. I can't see it really making any more. If it makes, another 3 or 4, whatever. It feels good. Plenty of mid-range power. Sounds good. It's quiet. Air conditioning works. Heat works. We are dragon ready. Stay tuned for the next episode. In the meantime, don't forget, October 7th and 8th, Classic Honda's on the Dragon. We'll see you there. Look for the CRX and look for the LHT flags. And the t-shirts will be in this car too, ready for sale. See you there. Have a good night.